guys, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a little different from what I've been putting out. I figured that I would have just a little casual video just to talk about certain topics, and we're going to call this the Let's Chat series. For now, since my channel is so small, I will be bringing up subjects that I think you guys would like to hear about and talk about. But as my channel grows, you guys can definitely leave me suggestions on what to talk about. For today's video, we are going to be talking about postpartum recovery, and I'm just going to cover the first 6 weeks from the time you give birth to the 6th week after you give birth. I'm just going to be talking to you about my experiences, what to expect, and things like that. So I hope you guys enjoy this type of video, and if you do, please comment down below and let me know what you think of it. So let's just get right into it. This video is going to be very TMI, so if you're not into this sort of thing, then you should definitely hit the road. Right after I gave birth, I was bleeding a lot. Like, it was the most blood I ever seen. It was like I fell into a pool of blood, like that episode of Dexter when he falls into the pool of blood. That's how I kind of felt. Like, I felt like I was murdered and I was just leaking blood from my death. It was just the most disgusting thing ever. I felt gross. And I stayed in the hospital for 2 nights. So I was in the hospital, and if you've had a baby before, you know they give you those giant maxi pads, sleepy pads or whatever, and those definitely saved lives, okay? Because I was definitely bleeding like no other, and they definitely helped keep that in check. They definitely didn't fit in my panties, they were just huge, but they definitely kept me from making a mess. Another thing. If you've had an epidural and you did not get a catheter like I did, I told them not to give me a catheter, so they didn't give me a catheter. And I didn't have an issue until after I had the baby. It was about maybe 5 hours after I had the baby. I'm laying in the bed and I'm like, Mom, I think I have to pee. And then she's like, okay, then get up and go pee. And then I'm like, okay, call the nurse, because I still didn't have that much feeling in my legs and I didn't want to try and go to the bathroom and then fall. So I'm like, okay, call the nurse. And then the nurse is coming in the room, I'm just kind of peeing the bed. It's like, did I just piss myself? So that was definitely weird. I think it was because I knew that I had to pee, but I didn't have the feeling below my waist to like hold it to go to the bathroom, so I just pissed everywhere. So that was interesting. If you had an epidural and no catheter, definitely expect maybe that to happen. Every woman is different. I'm just sharing my experience. It's definitely something to look out for. If you have to pee, try to hold it. I don't even know. Just don't pee the bed like I did. That was definitely embarrassing. I had to come in and change my bed, change the sheets, and all that. Another thing. If you're staying in the hospital after you have the baby, expect the nurses to, I don't want to say this in an offensive way, but expect the nurses to treat you like you are a nursing home patient, okay? The nurses took me to the bathroom and they changed my clothes, they wiped my vagina area down, they sprayed my vagina area down with the spray nozzle bottle, which is amazing. They just kind of made me feel like I was an elderly patient and, you know, like I couldn't like wipe myself or anything like that, because I did have to get wiped by the nurses and they had to walk me back to the bed. It was just a weird experience. It wasn't fun for me. I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't like nurses to have to take care of me or anything like that. So that was definitely weird, and that was definitely something that I'll never forget. And expect that if you are staying in the hospital and you had an epidural or anything like that, expect the nurses to be very hands-on, let's say. The next thing. Taking a shower. The first time I took a shower after I had the baby, it was just the most weirdest thing ever. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just me. Comment down below if you felt this way, but when I took a shower, I just felt so weird. Like, not because of the epidural, because I didn't take a shower until the next day because they wouldn't let me. I just felt like my whole center of gravity has shifted and I couldn't stand straight. I kind of stood in the shower with like a hunch, kind of like moving and like doing normal things that you do in the shower just felt so off. It was so weird, and it felt like that for a while after I had the baby. I didn't feel normal taking a shower until like 2 weeks after I had the baby. Showers were just not something that I like to do, but I definitely had to do it, of course, to keep my area clean and just keep me clean. But that's definitely something to keep in mind. You're just not gonna feel the same after you have a baby for a while. For me, it lasted a couple weeks. I just didn't feel like myself in my body. I just felt like I was in someone else's body. Showering was very difficult because you are very sore down there after you have the baby. but you do have to keep that area clean. So cleaning it was definitely a struggle. My back hurt so bad because of the epidural. I felt weird bending over. It just hurt so bad. I just couldn't clean myself normally. I felt like I needed help. I did end up being able to clean myself, but I just felt like I needed help in the shower. It was so weird. Another thing that is weird is obviously the weight. Depending on your body type, you will definitely have a flab, you will definitely have a pouch, you will definitely have something there. Some women are skinny before birth and they just bounce right back after, but if you are like me and you had a little bit of weight on before the baby, for me, I just kind of bounced back to how I was before I had the baby. I feel a little bit more flabby, I feel a little bit more jiggly in all the wrong places, if you know what I mean. I just don't feel as toned as I was before I was pregnant. But it's definitely something that I want to take care of and manage and get my body back to at least the way that it was before I was pregnant. I thought the baby weight was going to be very hard to get rid of after birth, but it just kind of went back to the way I was. I'm just a little bit more flabbier in some places than I was, but I lost the weight fairly quick. A big part of that was because I was breastfeeding, and we'll get into that in a second also. Don't be weird about your weight. I mean, it's always going to be a little bit more weight gain after you have the baby, and that's totally normal, and you guys can't feel discouraged about it because you just did one of the most amazing things in the world. You brought another person into this world. So don't feel embarrassed and don't feel awkward about your body afterwards. And if your partner is making you feel weird about it, then you gotta go. You definitely just gave him a son or daughter, and he needs to be appreciative of that, and he needs to understand that your body is not going to be the same afterwards. Moving on to the next thing, breastfeeding. I know that everyone doesn't have the time in their schedule to breastfeed, and I know that it can be very demanding and frustrating because I've definitely been there. I breastfed for a month and a half after I had the baby exclusively, and it can be very demanding, especially when they're in their growth spurt periods, and it can definitely be frustrating if your baby doesn't have the correct latch, which I only had an issue with right after birth. She just had a couple of issues latching on, but after that she was definitely a pro at breastfeeding. She did a very great job. Another thing that can be frustrating is milk supply, especially right after birth. After birth you just have colostrum, and it's just enough for the baby when they're first born because they don't need a lot, just a couple of drops, and their tummies are full because their tummies are so small. But afterwards your real milk starts to come in, and there's different levels of supply that some women have. Some women have very limited supply, and that is the main reason why a lot of women can't breastfeed, because they just don't have enough milk for their little babies. And then there's like the normal supply, which is what I had, which you just have enough for your baby and everything is okay. I think I had like normal to oversupply. And then you have oversupply, which you make just a lot of milk. When you have oversupply, that can be frustrating because you'll leak a lot, and even if you pump, you'll still end up leaking. I think that's why I had oversupply, because I would pump and I would still leak a lot. So that was really annoying. And then there's the letdown thing, which is how your milk comes out. It's like a reflex. It can be triggered by your baby, looking at her face, touching her skin, smelling her, stuff like that. My letdown was very strong, and that is one of my biggest frustrations in breastfeeding. When she would feed, she would pull off. She would like do this thing where she would like jerk her head to the side and pull off of my breast, which was very painful because she still have a latch, and their latch is very strong. It would hurt so bad, and I would feel so bad because she would cry, and it was just because my milk was coming out way too fast for her to handle. And that's one of the main reasons that I kind of was just frustrated with breastfeeding. Anyway, back to the topic that we're really discussing, which is postpartum. I definitely recommend breastfeeding if you are trying to lose the weight fast. Breastfeeding burns so many calories during the day, and you do it so much, so you're sitting there burning calories while you're feeding your baby. You'll definitely lose a lot of weight fast. My baby weight shredded off, okay? It came off so fast. I was back to normal within 2 weeks because of breastfeeding. It's definitely very good for the baby. It has a lot of benefits. It's just a really good thing to do. But if you don't want to, that's definitely up to you. Formula is great too. I was a formula-fed baby, so I'm not mommy shaming in any way. I'm just telling you the benefits, and you can do with that what you will. The next thing we're going to discuss is a bowel movement after you have the baby. This is so funny because I was terrified to take a poop after I had the baby. I don't know why. I just read so many horror stories about it, and I watched so many videos about it on YouTube that I just was so scared to poop. And I think that anxiety about taking a poop was what got me kind of like, not constipated, held me back from taking a poop. Like every time I had the urge to poop, I would go on the toilet to poop, and I just was thinking about like, oh my god, is this gonna hurt? Is my butthole gonna rip? Is my vagina gonna rip? I was so scared, so I just couldn't, and I didn't poop for like a week after I had the baby. And I know at some hospitals they kind of try and encourage you to do a bowel movement before you leave, but my hospital didn't do that. They just wanted me to pee. Like, peeing wasn't anything that stressed me out. It didn't hurt, it didn't burn, it didn't do anything like that. But I just was so terrified to take a poop. I thought that it was going to hurt really bad, but then I did poop and it was just like normal. It wasn't anything weird. It did feel a little different, but it wasn't really different from a normal poop. So that's that. Next, we are going to talk about bleeding. So obviously, like I said, you bleed after birth till whenever. All women are different. It all depends on your experience of birth and how your body carried the child. I bled for basically 6 weeks, okay? And it was annoying as hell, and I hated it, and I had to wear pads because I couldn't wear tampons. You're not supposed to wear tampons until the doctor basically says it's okay for you to wear tampons, and that was really annoying because I haven't worn a pad in ages. I had to wear really ugly panties and just keep my pad on and switch it all throughout the day because I was bleeding so much. It was basically like a period, but a little bit heavier for the first couple of weeks. Then it gradually decreased. The flow started to slow down, and then eventually it just turned into discharge. So I bled for about 5 weeks total, and then after I stopped bleeding, I started to discharge, kind of like my mucus plug. So expect it to be kind of clearish, kind of a little yellowish, and kind of slimy like a mucus plug. For me, discharge went on for like a couple of weeks, and then finally I just ceased. And then I got my period. So that sucked. We'll talk about the period too, which is kind of a weird experience for me personally. I don't know how anyone else had their period, but for me it was weird. But we'll get into that in a second. Next, we're going to talk about sex. Now, postpartum sex was definitely another fear of mine. I was terrified because of things that I read online about it hurting and about it never feeling the same again and your vagina just feeling like you're a virgin again, and that definitely terrified me. I was so scared to have sex with my fiance. Like, I was terrified. I definitely wanted to wait, and obviously he didn't want to wait because he was feeling frisky. And I was feeling frisky too, but I was just so scared, and the anxiety of having sex again after I had the baby just kind of settled in and turned me off, kind of. I feel bad for saying turned me off, turned me away from doing the deed. We eventually did have sex, and I'm not gonna go into that, but it was painful, but it wasn't anything terrible. It was kind of like losing my virginity again. It was just because my vagina was healing back together and getting that elasticity back. Some women have pain, some women don't. Some women jump back on the saddle quicker than others, but I just wanted to wait. I think I waited the entire 6 weeks. Some women don't wait that long, but that's definitely personal preference. So you do you, and that's all for that. Next, we're going to talk about your period after you have the baby. Now, some women's periods come in differently depending on whether you're breastfeeding or not. So if you're breastfeeding, you can not expect a period for quite a while, depending on how often you're breastfeeding. If you're exclusively breastfeeding, you can definitely not expect a period for quite some time. I'm not exactly sure how long, but it could definitely be months. For me, since I did stop exclusively breastfeeding, my period came in about a week after I stopped breastfeeding exclusively. So pretty much after I stopped bleeding from birth, I got my period, which sucked. So let's talk about that. For me personally, I've always had really intense cramps when I had my period, but these cramps that I had for this period postpartum were definitely something that I've never experienced. They were so painful. They were the worst cramps that I've ever had on my period, and they came randomly. When I used to have my period before I got pregnant, I had cramps on the first day, and then I had cramps on the last day, and that was it. For this, I had cramps pretty much every single day, and they hurt so bad. They hurt like a mother, okay? They were horrifying. I was taking Motrins, and they really weren't even helping, honestly. Expect your cramps to be different, maybe more stronger, maybe not. Also, the bleeding was something that was different too. Usually when I had my period, it would come in heavy and then it would just lighten up and then it would be gone. But this time it came in light and then it got heavy and then it stopped and then it came back heavy and then it would come in light again and then it would just be sporadic. There was no pattern to the bleeding and it was so weird. I thought I was never going to get off my period. But it did last exactly 7 days, which is also weird because my periods were about 5 days before. It was a period from hell. I hated it, and I definitely hope that it goes back to normal because I don't want to deal with that anymore. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys like me doing videos like this because I definitely do want to incorporate more of these type of videos into my channel. Just casual videos chatting about different topics, stuff that women go through, stuff that guys go through, just any kind of topics that I can bring to light and tell you my experiences on and just share with you. Hope you guys will give positive feedback. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll definitely see you guys in the next video.